What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabid here, and smash that subscribe button because we're doing a double build. That's right, we're building a double CPU mining rig. So right here there is a 7950x 3D. So this is the X3D version. I've been hearing that they're doing pretty darn good on Random X and Ghost Rider algorithms. So I was like, you know what? Why not? I gotta test this thing out. And on the other side here, we do have a standard 7950X. So when I'm done doing all my testing and stuff, this is just a build video. We're not going to be going into any BIOS settings or anything because I am going to have to check this out for a while and figure out exactly how to run this because there is no voltage control on the 3DV chip. So we're going to have to use PBO and some curve optimizations and other things to tweak that thing out. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to figure that out, but we are going to be doing a build here. When I'm done doing all the testing, I am going to put this in my workstation. So then this will turn into a double 7950X build. That's why I do have this right here. That's a 24-pin splitter, which will run off a single power supply. This power supply does have two CPU outs, so it'll run both CPUs on two separate motherboards. The other test I'm going to be doing is these coolers right here are only $23 Canadian, and I have been hearing good things about this brand, so I'm going to find out if these can cool the top-notch consumer-grade CPUs. Now, it's kind of hard to see through the glass, but inside my workstation and my gaming PC, I guess, you know, both in one, this is an RTX 4090 with the 7950X. So the 7950X 3D will go in here, and I'll pair that guy up with that right there so that they're both kind of together. So I will have my build list down in the description. All of them will be Amazon links. I couldn't find this RAM on Amazon, so I will just have it in writing, and you can search for it on Newegg or wherever you want to go. But regardless, you can find the motherboards probably cheaper somewhere else, but everything else I did purchase from Amazon. And if you're looking for anything on Amazon in the first place, go to any of my videos, click that link, and then search for whatever the heck you want, whether it's a new car hood, maybe it's a chair, maybe it's a stand, it doesn't matter. It'll still work and is greatly appreciated and will help out the channel. So the first thing I am going to do is get my stands here onto these motherboards. Now you may have seen me post some pictures of a different stand, which is kind of like an A-frame, and you got them sitting side by side. I will post a picture of that right here. I'm waiting for some more parts before I print those out. So eventually I will put these on those stands, but I got these ready for now until I get everything together to fully start developing that new style of stand. Okay, so we got the stands on here. Things are looking pretty nice. So next up, what I'm going to do is I already flashed Hive OS onto the M2 drives. So I'm going to pull off the top heat sinks here and then just slide in that M2 drive so that we got our OS all ready to go when we boot these things up. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so before I do install the CPU as well as the cooler, I'm going to put in our RAM. So this is the T-Force Delta DDR5 CL30 6000 megahertz. It does run about $124 Canadian. For you guys in the US, that's probably about $5 or $10 or so. I'm just bugging, guys. But regardless, this is about $124 Canadian here, and it seems to be a nice little sweet spot for the 7000 series. Now, it is always recommended to check your motherboard's manufacturing details to figure out where to put your RAM because you are going to want to utilize dual channel, especially for random X algorithms. So for this motherboard in particular, because I have a bunch of them, it is A2, which is the second, and B2, which is the fourth slot. So number 2 and number 4 away from the CPU coming out. All right, so with DDR5 RAM, it does look like it's pretty close to centered, but there is actually 2 or 3 extra pins on one side over the other. So a nice easy way to know where to put your RAM is you see the label right here with the branding on the back side. There isn't really anything other than the tag. Simply put this out like so on your motherboard. It makes it nice and easy. But remember, always double check and make sure those pins are there, because you never know if you get like some Chinese knockoff RAM trying to be super dirt cheap and they reverse everything on you. So always make sure it does look like the pins will connect properly. right, so as mentioned, we are going to be throwing in the 7950X as well as the 7950X 3D. So this should be exciting once you do begin the testing and stuff across these two. All right, so I'm going to pop these hinges open like so. That's one. That's two. And then we're going to lift up the lid. There we go. So we can see here with the AM5 platform that the pins are actually in the motherboard, not on the bottom of the CPU. And you can also see on the AM5 socket here that there's an arrow pointing up to the top left, which also matches up with the CPU in the top left corner as well. So it's pretty hard to mess these up, as well as various grooves in the CPU right here and right here, which match up inside of the motherboard. If I can get this open, you can see the little slot right there, as well as right there. Alright guys, so it is thermal paste and cooler time. Unlock chill force here. So if we open this up, this is a little bigger cooler than I thought it would be. Obviously the heatsink is not so fat or anything, but it's looking pretty decent. I do believe it has 5 heat pipes, so we'll just see how well this thing does cool. Remember, this thing was only 23 Canadian dollars, so I'm gonna have to take off the entire AM4, and it has its own hardware that will need to be installed. What I mean by the default AM4, these two brackets right here, which normally, you know, you just slap a Wraith cooler or something on in the 3000 series, I'm gonna have to remove those and put in its own hardware, so that should only take a couple seconds here. All right, so I did remove the back plate there, or I guess not the back plate, the brackets here. And what I like about AM5 versus AM4 is the back plate is pretty solid in here. This doesn't drop out. If this was an AM4 motherboard, as soon as I pulled those off, this would have fell, and then I'd have to hold it underneath and everything, trying to get everything in place. So it's really nice that everything is stuck here pretty good. It actually has extra support in the back to actually hold it up. You'll have to take apart a few more things if you want to actually pull out the back plate, but I don't think you've ever had to do so with any of these coolers. All right, so it is pretty self-explanatory what kit to use here. We got AM4, AM5, we got 1700, and we got whatever this is right here, the 1200 thingamajigger. 115X 1200. So we're going to use AM5 obviously. We're just going to take these risers, stick them on top of where the backplate screw holes are coming up, and then I'm going to put these guys on that, and then I'm going to screw the cooler on top after we put on the thermal paste. Now this actually came with its own thermal paste as well. It seems like everything comes with its own thermal paste these days. Well, everything that's not GPU related, that is. But when it comes to the CPU side of things, you're supplied like almost everything. So I do have some of the good stuff right here, the Noctua. I'm probably just going to use this stuff. If you guys have used this kind before, the Thermalright or whatever this is, yeah, the Thermalright, let me know how it does work down in the comment section. Okay, so I have the brackets on. As you can see, we got those spacers in, and then we got the brackets here. And the brackets, you can see how they kind of just come in and then they face back, and then there's a wide spot here. So now it comes down to the thermal paste job. As most of you guys are aware, I am horrible with thermal paste. If you're new to the channel and watching this for the first time of one of my first builds, you're about to find out how horrible I am. That one actually didn't turn out too bad, but we'll see what it looks like once we fire it up. Again, not too shabby. I might have to move it around a little bit just so it doesn't spread off and fall in between and stuff. Okay, so I got the coolers on. It's pretty basic. You just screw in. There's one screw on each side of it. Line it up. torque it down slowly on each side until it's nice and even, and then clamp her down. Now here you can see the 5 heat pipes right there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So hopefully this should be good enough to cool it. You know, Thermaltake coolers are doing pretty well. I actually have a $20 cooler hanging out on a 7950X rigs. It does run around 80 degrees, but it was only 20 bucks, and that's well within margin for CPU mining. CPUs are indestructible, and they can actually run for at about 95 degrees 24/7 according to AMD specs. But you know what? Obviously you want to run it around 60, 65, 70 if you can. But just to say, you know, I am running a cheap little cooler on a 5950X for a couple of years now, and it's doing just fine. All right, guys, so the build is complete. The fans are on, the coolers are on, the RAM is in, the hard drives are in. All we got to do now is hook up the power, get a power button in there, and turn them on and make sure they all detect in Hive. Again, we're not doing any BIOS settings or anything. That will be for the next video when I figure out what all to set on the 7950X 3D. So the PSU for this build is the Corsair Rabid Mining 750X. So the RM 750X. Now, the reason I like these, I like the EVGAs, the Corsairs, the RM ones here, as well as, I can't remember the other brand I use. There is another brand. Oh, some of the Rogue Strix ones. They do have 2 CPU outs. Now, a lot of them, you can use the, I guess, the PCI Express pins as well. They're all the same on the 12-volt side of the PSU, but make sure they do have double CPU cable. See, it says CPU there, and the other one says CPU as well, because the pins will not line up if you use PCI Express like on a GPU. The pins going into the motherboard are different. So if you only have PSUs with one CPU cable coming out, you are going to have to utilize a CPU splitter, which again is different from a PCI Express splitter. And then the 24 pin will go into this, split to 2 24 pins for both motherboards there. But for the first little while, I am just going to be using the one PSU on one rig just until I get it kind of tuned up. Then I'll put it to the other one, tune it up till I know they're stable. It's going to take a few days per rig to get stable, and that's when I'll eventually finally link them together. Okay, so here's the best part after every build. I got the power switch in, the power supply is hooked up. This is the 7950X 3D. All I got to do is hit this power switch and it should turn on. Or we're going to start a massive fire and everything is going to melt and my house is gone. So that would suck. But I'm sure you guys would like to see that. But hopefully I don't. Anyway, so here we go. 3, 2, 1, and I hit it. I do see the fan starting to spin. We should start to see RGBs on the RAM. And, oh, there we go. Nice, nice. Oh, I better get that off the power supply so you don't want to get that stuck in there. That'll be a bad day. So it does look like we are booting up. I'm going to check Hive OS and just make sure we are detected. That'll initiate a full boot sequence. Oh, and I forgot, as soon as you install a new CPU into any motherboard, you will have to go into the BIOS and stuff. So here's my capture card. I'm going to have to go hit Y and bypass all this so that it'll begin booting. All right, so here we have it. Rig 34 is detected in Hive OS. We can see we have CPU temps because we are using Hive OS beta image. You will have to use the beta image to see your temperature of your CPU. So we're sitting idle at 35C, and we can see right there the 7950X 3D is now live. So awesome. This is all looking good. Now I got to turn on the 7950X and hopefully it will load up as well. All right, so 7950X 3D is good. Now for the 7950X. I got my capture card plugged in this time as well as a keyboard because we are going to have to hit the F button for it to boot up and go through all the defaults there with new CPU. So everything's ready to go. Moment of truth for this one. Will we get a fire? 3, 2, 1, boom. And fan is spinning. RGBs any second now. Let's go. All right, there we go. Fan started spinning there. So it looks like everything's looking good. I got to jump back to the workstation and hit that F button. All right, guys, Rig 35 is detected in Hive OS, Ryzen 9 7950X. So everything is looking pretty good here. CPU temp is 28 degrees on the idle. So now I just got to get down to tuning all these bad boys. All right, guys, so that should wrap up this video. Both rigs are running and everything is working as intended. So now, because everything is pretty much the exact same rig, other than the 2 CPUs, I will get to testing, figure out some tweaking here, and see exactly which CPU outperforms the other in the 7950X category. So thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Rabid out.